I ran. My heels were in one hand, my purse in the other, and my blouse was torn at the shoulder. Rain hit my face as I burst through Mr. Coop's front door into the dark suburban street. Behind me, I could hear him shouting my name. Gloria, get back here. You're overreacting. Overreacting. Like his hands on me were nothing. Like locking his front door behind us was normal. Like cornering me in his kitchen was just a misunderstanding. My heart hammered. My phone was dead. I didn't know this neighborhood. Just rows of expensive houses with their lights off and manicured lawns that looked identical in the dark. I'd been so stupid. When he invited me to discuss a promotion at his house, I actually believed him. Showed up in my best work clothes with my portfolio, ready to prove I deserved a raise after 2 years of carrying that entire office on my back. But there was no promotion. Just wine I didn't drink. Just him standing too close. Just his hands reaching for me when I tried to leave. I ran down the sidewalk, rain soaking through my clothes. No cars, no lights on in any houses. Just darkness and the sound of my bare feet slapping wet concrete. Then I saw it. A black car idling at the curb. Engine running. Rear door cracked open like it was waiting for someone. I didn't think. I just ran to it and threw myself inside. Drive, I gasped. Please, just drive. The man behind the wheel turned to look at me. Asian, sharp suit, dark eyes that showed nothing. For a second, he just stared. Taking in my torn blouse, my wet hair, my panicked breathing. Then he locked the doors and pulled away from the curb. No questions, no hesitation. I pressed myself against the seat, watching Mr. Coop's house disappear behind us. My hands were shaking. I couldn't catch my breath. Thank you, I whispered. The driver's eyes met mine in the rearview mirror. Where do you need to go? I opened my mouth to give him my address, then stopped. What if Mr. Co-op followed me home? What if he was already calling me, texting me, waiting for me? I don't know, I said. The driver nodded once. Okay. And he just kept driving. If you want to know what happens next, make sure to like this video and subscribe so you don't miss the rest of Gloria's story. The car smelled like leather and something expensive I couldn't name. The seats were too nice, the dashboard too clean. This wasn't an Uber. I'm sorry, I said, my voice shaking. I thought you were. I didn't mean to just jump in your car like that. The driver didn't respond. He just kept driving, hands steady on the wheel. Rain streaked across the windshield and the wipers moved in rhythm, the only sound besides my ragged breathing. I needed to explain, to make him understand I wasn't crazy. My boss invited me to his house. Said we'd discuss a promotion. But when I got there, my voice cracked and I pressed my palm against my mouth. The driver's eyes flicked to the rearview mirror. You don't have to explain. I just need to get home. I can pay you. I have cash. Where's home? I opened my mouth, then closed it. Co-op knew where I lived. He had my address from HR files, my emergency contacts, everything. I don't know if I can go home. The driver nodded like that made perfect sense, like women ran into his car every night with torn clothes and nowhere to go. We drove in silence for 10, maybe 15 minutes. The expensive neighborhood gave way to commercial streets, closed shops, empty parking lots. Then he pulled into a 24-hour diner, all neon lights and chrome. He got out, came around to my door, and opened it. When I didn't move, he shrugged off his suit jacket and held it out. It's cold, he said. I took it. The jacket was warm and smelled like cedar. I wrapped it around my shoulders and followed him inside. The diner was nearly empty, just a tired waitress and a trucker at the counter. The driver led me to a booth in the back, away from the windows. Coffee? He asked. I nodded. He ordered 2 coffees, then sat across from me. Up close, I could see him better. Maybe mid-30s, Korean I thought, with a calm that felt unnatural, like nothing could touch him. Thank you, I said. For helping me. Catch your breath. Then figure out what you need to do next. I stared at him. Are you really an Uber driver? He almost smiled. Does it matter? I guess not. The coffee came hot and bitter. I wrapped my hands around the cup and felt the warmth seep into my fingers. He pulled out a card, plain white with just a name, Tommy, and a phone number written in black ink. If you need help, he said, sliding it across the table. Call. Why would you help me? You don't even know me. His dark eyes held mine. Sometimes people need help. That's reason enough. Then he stood, left cash on the table for the coffee, and walked toward the door. Wait, I called. Your jacket. He glanced back. Keep it. You need it more than I do. And he was gone. I sat there holding his card, wondering what kind of man drives through the rain at night, rescues strangers, and disappears without asking for anything in return. The kind of man who gives you his number and tells you to call if you need help. But I didn't know then what calling that number would cost me, or who Tommy really was, or that getting into his car that night would change everything. Because by morning, my nightmare was just beginning. I woke up on my couch still wearing yesterday's clothes. My neck ached and my mouth tasted like diner coffee and fear. For a moment, I thought maybe I'd dreamed it, the rain, the escape, the stranger in the black car. But then I saw the suit jacket draped over my chair, expensive fabric that still smelled like cedar. Tommy's card sat on my counter, just a name and a number in black ink. It was real, all of it. My phone had 17 missed calls. 12 from Mr. Co-op and 5 from numbers I didn't recognize. I deleted them all without listening to the voicemails. I should have called the police, should have gone straight to a hospital, should have done everything right. But I didn't. I just came home, locked every lock on my door, and collapsed. Now it was 7 a.m. and I had to decide if I was going to work. I went, because not going felt like letting him win. The office looked the same. Same beige walls, same motivational posters, same people at their desks pretending to care about quarterly reports. I kept my head down and went straight to my cubicle. I lasted 2 hours before she showed up. Gloria Wills? A woman from HR stood at my desk. Young, blonde, the kind of smile that wasn't really a smile. Mr. Co-op would like to see you. My stomach dropped. I'm actually in the middle of. Now, please. I followed her down the hallway to the HR office. Not Mr. Coop's office. That was worse. Diane Foster sat behind her desk, head of human resources, 40-something with a perfectly pressed suit. She gestured to the chair across from her. Gloria, thank you for coming. We need to discuss a complaint that was filed this morning. A complaint? Mr. Co-op has reported that you made unwanted advances toward him last night at his residence. The words hit me like a punch and I couldn't breathe. He states that you showed up at his home uninvited, consumed alcohol, and became inappropriate when he asked you to leave. He's very concerned about your behavior and wanted to document the incident. That didn't happen. He invited me. He said we were discussing a promotion. He tried to. I stopped because my hands were shaking. He's lying. Do you have any proof of this invitation? It was verbal. In the office yesterday. Did anyone else hear this conversation? Diane's face stayed neutral, professional. No, but, did you tell anyone you were going to his house? I hadn't because I thought it was professional, thought I was being given an opportunity. Gloria, I understand this is difficult. But without evidence, it's your word against his. Diane folded her hands on her desk. Mr. Co-op is willing to let this go if you resign quietly. We'll provide a neutral reference. Resign? For something I didn't do? Or we can launch a full investigation, which will involve interviewing your coworkers about your workplace behavior, your performance reviews, your interactions with Mr. Co-op. These investigations can take months and they can be very uncomfortable for everyone involved. The message was clear. Fight this and lose everything, my job, my reputation, my future. I stood up and my legs felt weak but I kept my voice steady. I need time to think. You have until Monday. I walked out of that office knowing I was alone. No one was coming to save me and no one would believe me. Mr. Co-op had already rewritten the story and he had the power to make everyone believe his version. Unless I found another way. My hand went to my pocket. Tommy's card was there, still crisp, still just a name and a number. He'd said to call if I needed help. But what kind of help could a stranger offer against a man like Olga Co-op? And what would that help cost me? I was about to find out. I walked out of the building in a daze. The afternoon sun was too bright, too normal, like the world should have changed after what just happened but didn't. My coworkers passed me on the sidewalk and some smiled while others avoided eye contact. Nobody knew, or maybe they did and just didn't care. I made it to the parking garage before I realized I was crying. Then I saw the car. Black sedan, same one from last night, parked 3 spaces from mine with the engine running. My heart jumped and I stopped walking. The driver's door opened and Tommy stepped out in the same sharp suit with the same unreadable expression. He held something in his hand. My phone. You left this, he said, walking toward me. I stared at it. My phone. I'd been so panicked last night I didn't even notice it was gone. How did you find me? Your work address was in your GPS history. He held the phone out. Figured you'd need it back. I took it and our fingers brushed. His hands were warm. Thank you. He nodded and started to turn back to his car. Wait. The word came out before I could stop it. Can I ask you something? Go ahead. Why did you help me last night? Tommy's jaw tightened and for the first time, something shifted behind his eyes. Something dark. Because I know what it's like when no one else will. We stood there in silence with cars driving past and the hum of the city around us. He filed a complaint, I said, and my voice cracked. My boss. He went to HR this morning and said I came onto him, that I showed up drunk and got inappropriate. Now they want me to resign or they'll investigate me. And you're considering it. What choice do I have? It's his word against mine. He has power, money, lawyers. I have nothing. Tommy stepped closer and his voice dropped low and steady. You need to report him. Tonight. Go to the police and file a report. They won't believe me either. Maybe, maybe not. But you need it on record. You need your version documented before his becomes the only version that exists. I shook my head. You don't understand. Men like him don't face consequences. They just destroy the women who speak up. You're right. Men like him don't stop. His eyes locked onto mine. They don't stop until someone makes them. There was something in his voice, something cold and certain, like he'd seen this before. Like he knew exactly what kind of man Olga Co-op was. How do you know? Because I've dealt with men like him my whole life. He pulled a card from his pocket, different from the one he'd given me before. This one had an address. There's a detective at this precinct. Her name is Sarah Chen. She's good. She'll listen. And if she doesn't, then you call me. Why would you do this? You don't even know me. Tommy's expression softened just slightly. I know enough. He turned back to his car. Tommy, I called and he stopped. What do you do? Really? He looked back at me over his shoulder. I help people who can't help themselves. That's not an answer. It's the only one I've got. He got in his car and drove away, leaving me standing there with 2 cards in my hand and a choice to make. I could resign quietly, disappear, let Olga Co-op win. Or I could fight. That night, I went to the precinct. Detective Chen listened and took notes. She was professional, thorough, and at the end she said the words I already knew were coming. Without physical evidence or witnesses, this will be difficult to prove. But it was on record. My version, my truth. I walked out of that police station feeling lighter and heavier at the same time. Then I saw him, Olga Co-op, sitting in his Mercedes across the street, watching me, smiling. And I realized reporting him wasn't going to stop him. It was going to make him angrier. Olga Co-op sat in his Mercedes across from the police station, watching me, smiling like he'd already won. I got in my car and locked the doors while my hands shook as I started the engine. He didn't follow me because he didn't need to. The message was clear. I see you, I know what you did, and you can't touch me. I drove home checking my mirrors every 30 seconds. For 2 days, nothing happened. I called in sick to work and stayed in my apartment, jumped at every sound in the hallway. Detective Chen called once to say they were looking into it, but her tone told me everything. No evidence meant no case. I was staring at Tommy's card on my counter, trying to decide if I was desperate enough to call, when someone knocked on my door. I looked through the peephole. Detective Chen and another detective I didn't recognize. I opened the door. Ms. Wills, Chen said. Can we come in? My stomach dropped. Did something happen? Actually, yes. Something did. They came inside and the other detective was older, white guy with tired eyes. He introduced himself as Detective Morrison. We received an anonymous tip this morning, Chen said. About security footage. What footage? Morrison pulled out a tablet. Your former boss's neighbor has a security camera positioned at the corner of their property. The angle catches part of Mr. Coop's driveway and front door. He turned the screen toward me. The footage was grainy but clear enough. Timestamp showed 2 nights ago, 8:47 p.m. There I was, walking up to Coop's front door in my work clothes, carrying my portfolio. Professional. Calm. Then the timestamp jumped to 9:23 p.m. and the front door burst open. I came running out, one heel missing, blouse torn, hair wild. I stumbled down the steps, looked back once in terror, then ran. 3 seconds later, Olga Co-op appeared in the doorway with his shirt untucked and face red. He shouted something the camera couldn't pick up, then went back inside. I couldn't breathe. The neighbor didn't even know this camera caught Mr. Coop's property, Chen said. It's angled for their own driveway. But the tip was very specific about the timestamp and angle. Who sent the tip? Anonymous. Came through our online portal. Untraceable. I knew. Of course I knew. Tommy. This changes things, Morrison said. This corroborates your statement, shows you fleeing in distress, shows his state when he came to the door. What happens now? We bring Mr. Co-op in for questioning. Officially. Chen's expression was hard. And Ms. Wills, this footage is solid. Whoever sent this knew exactly where to look and when. After they left, I sat on my couch staring at my phone. I pulled up Tommy's number and typed a message, deleted it, typed another. Finally, I just wrote, "Thank you." 3 dots appeared immediately. Then, "You're welcome." I stared at those 2 words. How did he get that footage? How did he even know about the neighbor's camera? Who was Tommy Sachs? My phone buzzed. Another message. "You did the brave part. I just helped." Me. "How did you find that camera?" Tommy. "I'm good at finding things people want to hide." Me. "What are you?" The 3 dots appeared and disappeared 3 times. Then, "Someone who knows how men like him operate." That wasn't an answer, but maybe it was the only one I'd get. 2 days later, Detective Chen called. Mr. Coop's been arrested and charged with attempted sexual assault. His lawyers are good, but that footage is hard to explain away. I should have felt relief, victory, something. Instead, I felt fear. Because men like Olga Co-op don't go down quiet. They have money, connections, ways of fighting back that don't involve courts or laws. And I was right. The next morning, I found out just how dirty he was willing to play, and how far Tommy was willing to go to stop him. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss what happens next in Gloria's story. Trust me, you'll want to see this. The morning after Coop's arrest, I woke up to my picture on a legal gossip blog. Former employee makes false accusations against respected executive. The article painted me as unstable, vindictive, a woman scorned after being rejected. It cited anonymous sources from my workplace and quoted former colleagues saying I'd always been too friendly with male coworkers, that I'd complained about not getting promoted. Every word was poison and it was spreading. My phone blew up with friends asking if I was okay, former colleagues unfriending me on social media, my mother calling crying and asking what I'd gotten myself into. This was Coop's play. Destroy my credibility before trial, make sure even if he lost in court, I'd lose everywhere else. I needed answers and there was only one person who seemed to have them. Tommy's card didn't have an address, just a phone number. But I remembered something from that night in his car, a glimpse of a business card in his cup holder with gold lettering and a name I'd barely caught, the Bowery Room. I found it online, exclusive lounge in the business district with no website, just a location and rumors about who went there. I showed up at 8 p.m. in jeans and a sweater, completely underdressed. The entrance was unmarked, just a black door with a small gold plate and a man in a suit standing outside. "I'm looking for Tommy," I said. He studied me, pulled out a phone, spoke quietly, then stepped aside. 3rd floor. Inside was all dark wood and low lighting with jazz playing softly. Well-dressed people sat in leather booths speaking in hushed tones and everyone looked expensive, important. I climbed the stairs and a hostess appeared on the 3rd floor. "Ms. Wills?" She knew my name. "This way." She led me to a corner booth where Tommy sat alone with a glass of whiskey, reading something on his phone. He looked up as I approached with no surprise on his face, like he'd been expecting me. "Gloria, how did they know my name?" "I told them you might come." He gestured to the seat across from him. "Sit." I sat and the hostess disappeared. "What is this place?" "A lounge." "Don't play games with me." "Who are you really?" Tommy set his phone down and studied me with those dark, unreadable eyes. "Someone who helps people when I can." "That's not an answer. It's the only one you need." "No." I leaned forward. "You found security footage the police didn't know existed. You made one call and everyone here treats you like royalty. That blog post about me this morning, I need to know if you can make that go away too. And I need to know what it'll cost me." Something shifted in his expression. "Respect, maybe. The blog post is Coop's lawyers trying to bury you before trial." "Can you stop it?" "Yes." "How? Do you really want to know how?" I opened my mouth, then closed it, because maybe I didn't. A waiter appeared with a glass of wine I hadn't ordered, set it in front of me and left without a word. "Everyone here knows you," I said. "I own the building. What else do you own?" "Things that help me help people." I grabbed the wine and took a long drink. "You're not going to tell me, are you? Would it change anything if I did?" "I don't know. Maybe." I set the glass down. That footage. How did you know about that camera? I know how to find things. Things or people? He almost smiled. Both. A man in an expensive suit walked past our booth and nodded at Tommy with clear deference, almost fear. They're afraid of you, I said. Respect and fear look similar from the outside. Which is it? Depends on the person. I stared at him, this man who'd helped me twice now without asking for anything, who operated in shadows but pulled strings in the light. What do you want from me, Tommy? Nothing. Nobody helps for free. I do. Why? His jaw tightened. Because someone should have helped me once and no one did. The honesty in those words hit me harder than anything else he'd said. The blog post, I said quietly. Can you really make it disappear? By morning. And Coop's lawyers? They'll reconsider their strategy. How? He leaned back. Let me help you the way I know how. Don't ask questions you don't want answered. I should have walked away, should have said no, should have done this the right way. But the right way was already destroying me. Okay, I whispered. Tommy nodded once. Go home. Lock your door. Tomorrow will be different. I left that lounge with more questions than answers. But by morning, I'd learn exactly what Tommy's help looked like and exactly how dangerous his world really was. Tommy said tomorrow would be different. He was half right. By morning, the blog post was gone, deleted like it never existed. But Coop's lawyers were just getting started. A new article appeared on a bigger site. Tech consultant faces questions about mental health history. They dug up my therapy sessions from 3 years ago after my dad died and twisted grief counseling into evidence of instability. Then came the leaked emails, messages I'd sent to HR about workload concerns now framed as complaints about not getting special treatment. A photo of me at a company happy hour with my arm around a male coworker got captioned with implications I'd been inappropriate with multiple colleagues. Every piece was calculated, legal enough to avoid slander charges but damaging enough to destroy me. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing with unknown numbers and reporters asking for comment. My landlord called about concerns from other tenants, and my mom begged me to just make it stop. By noon, I'd been tagged in 17 social media posts calling me a liar. By 3 p.m., someone had created a fake profile using my photo to send sexual messages to random men. I stopped answering my phone, stopped checking social media, stopped existing anywhere but my locked apartment. This was what power looked like. Not violence, not threats, just systematic destruction of everything I'd built. My career, my reputation, my life. I sat on my bathroom floor at 6 p.m. and finally broke. The knock on my door came at 7. I almost didn't answer, then I looked through the peephole and saw him. Tommy, holding takeout bags. I opened the door and he took one look at my face and walked in without asking. He set the food on my counter and moved around my kitchen like he belonged there, pulling out plates and finding utensils. You haven't eaten, he said. Not a question. How did you know I'd need? I saw the new articles. Figured you'd be here alone. He handed me a plate of Thai food, still hot, my favorite dishes even though I'd never told him what I liked. I can't do this, I said and my voice cracked. They're destroying me, everything I worked for, everything I am. And I can't stop them. Tommy set his plate down and turned to face me fully. Let me help you the way I know how. You already tried. The blog post disappeared but they just came back harder. Because I was being subtle. His voice was quiet, controlled. I can stop being subtle. Something in his tone made my skin prickle. What does that mean? It means Coop's lawyers are powerful. But power comes from reputation, from connections, from the belief that they're untouchable. He stepped closer. I can break that belief. How? By reminding them that everyone has secrets and some secrets are expensive to keep buried. I stared at him. You're talking about blackmail. I'm talking about leverage. They're using yours against you. I can return the favor. That's illegal. So is what they're doing to you. They're just better at hiding it. My hands were shaking. Who are you really, Tommy? Someone who knows how this game works. Someone who can play it better than they can. And what do you want in return? He looked at me like the question hurt. Nothing. I want nothing from you, Gloria. Why? Because you deserve someone in your corner who isn't keeping score. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe someone could help without wanting something back. If you do this, I said slowly, if you use leverage or secrets or whatever you're planning, there's no going back. I'll be part of whatever you are. You're already part of it. The moment you got in my car, you became part of it. And what is it exactly? Tommy's jaw tightened. A world where the rules are different, where justice doesn't come from courts, where people like me fix problems people like you shouldn't have to face. You're talking about the Mafia. He didn't deny it, didn't confirm it, just held my gaze. I'm talking about survival. Yours. He pulled out his phone. One call. That's all it takes. Coop's lawyers will back down, the articles will stop, your life will be yours again. And the cost? Knowing that I did it. Living with that knowledge, I looked at the phone in his hand, then at the takeout he'd brought, at this man who kept showing up when I needed him most. Make the call, I whispered. Tommy nodded once and stepped into my hallway. I heard his voice, low and controlled, speaking in Korean. 2 minutes later, he came back. It's done. Just like that? Just like that. But nothing is ever just like that. And within 48 hours, I'd see exactly what happened when Tommy Sachs decided to stop being subtle. What I didn't know was that making Coop's lawyers back down would only be the beginning, and that the real cost of Tommy's help wasn't what he'd take from me, but what he'd do for me. Within 48 hours, everything changed. The smear campaign stopped cold, articles disappeared, my fake social media profiles vanished. Then the real news started breaking. First came an article in a major business journal, Co-op and Associates under investigation for workplace misconduct. The piece cited anonymous sources within the company, detailed a pattern of behavior going back years, mentioned settlements with former employees that had been buried under NDAs. Then witnesses started coming forward. Women I'd never met, women who'd worked at the company before me, women who'd taken payouts and signed agreements promising silence. Suddenly they were talking to reporters, to lawyers, to anyone who would listen. Detective Chen called on day 3. Ms. Wills, you need to see this. She sent me a link to a forensic accounting report that had somehow leaked to the press. Olga Koop's financials, laid bare for the world to see. Payment after payment to different women over the past decade, amounts ranging from $20,000 to $500,000, all labeled as consulting fees or severance packages. The pattern was unmistakable. By day 4, Koop's high-powered legal team released a statement saying they were reassessing their defense strategy and would no longer be challenging my account of events. The firm's HR director resigned. 2 board members called for Koop's immediate termination. I should have been relieved, but all I felt was cold dread. This wasn't justice, this was demolition. Someone had taken a wrecking ball to Olga Koop's entire life and I knew exactly who that someone was. I found Tommy at the Bowery Room. Same corner booth, same glass of whiskey, like he'd been waiting for me. I sat down across from him without being invited. What did you do? He looked up from his phone, calm as ever. I helped you. Those women coming forward, that accounting report, all of it happened in 4 days. That's not normal. That's not how investigations work. You're right. It's not. So what did you do? Tommy set his phone down and met my eyes. I reminded some people that reputation is fragile. That NDAs only work when both sides want them to work. That accountants keep records and records can be found. That's all. That's all? My voice rose. You destroyed him. His career, his reputation, his entire life. No. He destroyed his own life by being a predator for 10 years. I just made sure people finally saw it. How? How did you find those women? How did you get those financial records? That's sealed information, protected by lawyers and confidentiality agreements. I have resources, people who owe me favors. People who are very good at finding things that others want hidden. You mean you have criminals working for you? He didn't flinch. I have people who understand that sometimes the law protects the wrong people and someone needs to balance the scales. I stared at him, this man in his expensive suit with his calm voice and his dark eyes that had seen things I couldn't imagine. Those NDAs you broke, those records you leaked, that's illegal. Those women could be sued, you could be arrested. They won't be sued. The women who came forward did so voluntarily once they understood they weren't alone. And I can't be arrested for information that appeared anonymously. You're splitting hairs. I'm being practical. You're being dangerous. Yes. He leaned forward. I am dangerous, Gloria. I've never pretended otherwise. But I'm dangerous to people who deserve it, not to you. My hands were shaking. I asked for help. I didn't ask for this. You asked me to make it stop. It stopped. By destroying a man. By exposing a predator. There's a difference. His voice got harder. Those women he paid off, they deserved to be heard. Those records he hid, they deserved to be seen. I didn't fabricate anything, I just brought the truth into the light. Using illegal methods, using effective methods. I wanted to be angry, wanted to be horrified, but part of me knew he was right. Olga Co-op had hurt people for years and gotten away with it because he had power and money and lawyers who knew how to bury the truth. The system had failed and Tommy had done what the system couldn't. I need to know, I said quietly. If I accept this, if I let you help me this way, what does that make me? Someone who survived. And what does it make you? He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Someone who'll do whatever it takes to protect the people who matter. I sat there in that expensive lounge, surrounded by people who treated Tommy like royalty or feared him like a threat, and I had to decide. Could I accept help that came with blood on its hands? Could I live with knowing that my justice came from someone who operated outside the law? I need time to think, I said. Take all the time you need. Tommy stood up. But Gloria, understand this. Coop's lawyers have backed down, but men like him don't disappear quietly. He's still out there and he still blames you. So when you're thinking about whether you can accept my help, also think about whether you can survive without it. He left me sitting there with those words echoing in my head. And 2 days later, I'd find out he was right. Because Olga Co-op wasn't done with me yet, and the next move he made would force me to make a choice I couldn't take back. 2 days after my conversation with Tommy, Olga Co-op was arrested at his home. Not just for what he did to me, but for a pattern of sexual harassment and assault spanning a decade. The evidence was overwhelming and his lawyers couldn't spin their way out of it. I went to the courthouse the day of his arraignment because I needed to see it with my own eyes. The hallway was packed with reporters and cameras, other women who'd come forward, lawyers in expensive suits scrambling to control the narrative. Then the doors opened and they brought him through. Olga Co-op in handcuffs looked nothing like the man who'd cornered me in his kitchen. His silver hair was disheveled, his expensive suit wrinkled, his face pale and drawn. He looked small, broken, like all the power he'd wielded for years had been stripped away in an instant. Our eyes met for just a second and I saw it, the rage and hatred directed at me, the woman who'd refused to disappear quietly. Then he was gone, led away by officers toward a future that included trials and testimony and consequences he'd avoided his whole life. I stood there feeling lighter than I had in weeks, like I could finally breathe without the weight of his shadow crushing me. That's when I saw Tommy. He stood at the far end of the hallway near the windows, watching from a distance, never approaching. Our eyes met and he nodded once, then turned to leave. I followed him outside to where his car was parked. Tommy, wait. He stopped and turned. You got your justice. That's what matters, is it? I walked closer. I've been thinking about what you said, about whether I could survive without your help. The answer is I don't know. But I do know this, I don't need saving anymore. Something flickered across his face. Good, that's how it should be. I'm not finished. I took a breath. I don't need saving, but I want you in my life. Not as some mysterious protector who shows up when things go wrong. As someone real. Tommy's expression shifted, became more vulnerable than I'd ever seen it. Gloria, you don't know what you're asking. My world is complicated and dangerous, full of things you shouldn't be part of. Then tell me about it. Be honest with me for once. He looked away, jaw tight. I've spent years living in shadows, doing things that needed to be done but couldn't be talked about. I've helped people, hurt people, made choices most people never have to make. And I've been alone in all of it because that's safer, cleaner, easier. And now? His dark eyes met mine. Now there's you. Someone who makes me want to step into the light, even though I don't know if I belong there anymore. I reached for his hand. Maybe we figure it out together. He stared at our joined hands like he couldn't believe they were real. You understand what you'd be accepting? Who I am, what I do. I understand enough. And I understand that you helped me when no one else would, that you protected me when I couldn't protect myself, that you saw me as someone worth saving when the whole world was calling me a liar. Tommy pulled me closer. This isn't a fairy tale, Gloria. My life doesn't come with happy endings. Then maybe we write our own ending. He smiled, really smiled, for the first time since I'd met him. Maybe we do. But as we stood there in the courthouse parking lot, neither of us knew that the hardest part was still coming. Because 6 months later, everything we'd built together would be tested in ways we never imagined. If you enjoyed Gloria's story, please like this video and subscribe for more stories like this. Your support means everything. 6 months later, my life looked nothing like it had the night I ran into Tommy's car. I had a new job at a tech startup where my boundaries were respected and my work was valued. I came in at 9, left at 6, and nobody questioned it. I'd learned to say no without guilt, to protect my peace without apology. Olga Co-op was serving 8 years in prison. 3 other women had pressed charges after my case, and the pattern was undeniable. The company he'd built crumbled without him, sold off piece by piece to pay settlements. Sometimes I still had nightmares about that night in his kitchen, but they were getting fewer, quieter. And Tommy was still in my life, but different now. He was careful to keep his business separate from me, never brought that world to my door. I didn't ask questions I didn't want answered, and he didn't offer details I didn't need to know. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. We'd built something fragile between us, a relationship that started with fear and rescue but had transformed into something else entirely. Choice. That's what we had now, the choice to be together, not because I needed saving or because he needed purpose, but because we genuinely wanted each other. Tonight, he picked me up after work in that same black car, the one I'd thrown myself into 6 months ago thinking it was an Uber. I got in and he smiled at me, that real smile that still felt like a gift. "Where are we going?" I asked. "Dinner. That Thai place you like. The one with the good pad see ew?" "That's the one." I settled into the seat, so different from that first terrified night. "You know what's funny? I got into this car once thinking you were my escape. Turns out you were my beginning." Tommy reached over and took my hand. "Turns out you were mine too." We drove through the city as the sun set, painting everything in shades of orange and gold. No rain this time, no fear, no running. Just 2 people who'd found each other in the darkness and decided to step into the light together. The past would always be there, the things we'd survived and the choices we'd made. But it didn't define us anymore. We were writing our own story now, one choice at a time, one day at a time. And for the first time in longer than I could remember, I felt free. Tommy glanced at me. "What are you thinking about?" "That I'm glad I got into your car that night. Even knowing everything you know now? Especially knowing everything I know now." He squeezed my hand and we drove on, leaving behind the people we used to be and moving toward whatever came next. Together. And that was enough.